All right, everyone. So today what we are going to start diving into is discussing melodic motion, right? So when we talk about that, what we're discussing is how notes are moving from one to the next in a melody. Okay, so there's a couple different ways we can change notes, all right, different types of motions that we can have. And the first and probably simplest type of motion is stepwise motion. So in stepwise motion, we are simply moving to an adjacent note, either up or down on the staff, right next door. Okay, so here we have the note C, and we moved up to the adjacent note D, right next door on the staff, to the next space or line above it. So that would be a step. D to E would be a step, right? Right next door. E to F, F to G. Now, this applies going up or down on the staff. It can go in either direction. So it can go up stepwise, and it can go downward stepwise, right? So G to F, same thing. They're right next door. They're adjacent. So that's what we would call stepwise, right? We're simply going up or down a step on the staff. If you think of it kind of like a ladder, right? Going through all the spaces and lines. So that's our simplest, probably most common type of motion that we'll see, stepwise motion. Our second type is a skip. Now, a step was going to the adjacent note. A skip is simply going to skip one, right? So it's the distance of two steps, either up or down. So here we went C, D, E, right? That was stepwise, just going up the ladder here. A skip would be if I left out this D and just went from C, skipping over D, right up to E. Okay, so here I'm jumping from one line up to the next line, up to the next line, up to the next line, right? So I'm kind of skipping the space notes here, hence the name skip, right? We're not going up each step, we're jumping over one each time. We're skipping one. So stepwise, we go through each note, ascending or descending. A skip, we skip over one of them. So it's the distance of two steps. Our third type of motion is a leap. Now, this one's a little bit vaguer. It's not quite as specific because a leap is simply anything that's going to be larger than this skip. Okay, so this is a leap. This would be a leap. This would be a leap. This would be a step because we're only skipping over one spot. So anything bigger than that is a leap. I can keep going and it's still a leap. Okay, so as long as it's a jump on the staff that's bigger than that skip, we have what's called a leap. Our final type of motion is, well, the absence of motion. So in a static motion, the note's not going to change. So here I just stayed on C. That would be what we call static motion. So again, we have a step, which is going up each note, not skipping over anything, or down. A skip is when we jump over one of those notes. Okay, so again, the distance of two steps, we're leaving out one in the middle there. A leap would be anything bigger than our skip. And then this here, static motion, is the lack thereof, right? No motion whatsoever. So let's kind of analyze a melody here. Let's kind of pick one apart here. Kind of look at some examples here. So let's look at this example first here. So let's do this here. Okay. Let me just change the color here. Maybe that'll make it easier. Okay, so looking at these two notes, let's try to figure out what type of motion we have here. So when we analyze this, we can see that this note is staying the same. It's not changing. Okay, so since we have no change whatsoever, we would say that these two notes would be an example, okay, of static motion. Okay, there's no change whatsoever between those two notes. All right, let's take another example here. Let's look at these down here. Oops. Okay, so let's look at these two notes here. Okay, so we've got the C up to a G. Well, it's bigger than a step because C to D would be a step. It's bigger than a leap, right? Because a leap, or a skip rather, because we've gone past just two steps, right? So a step would put me here. A skip would put me here. So our target note was up here. So what's our type of motion that we find if it's larger than a skip? We get a leap. Okay, so this here would be an example of a leap. Right? Any interval that's bigger than a skip is a leap. All right, let's try another one here. Let's do, G and F here. Okay, so we can look at these two notes. We see that this one is right next door to this one. So that makes it a step. Right? It's right next door. We just stepped down on the staff. Okay, so that would be an example of a step. Okay, so those would be examples of three of the type of motions. We don't have any leaps in here, or skips in here rather. Right? Not in this example anyhow. But that's to give you an idea of three of those types of motions. Okay, so what you'll be doing now is you're going to analyze the piece for Jacques, and you're going to tell me what the marked individual intervals are going to be. Okay, that's your next assignment.